Welcome to Code with Vinay. In this video, we'll discuss command line arguments in Java. Command line arguments, as the name suggests, allow us to provide arguments to the main method via the command line while executing the program. This is useful when the program is run via a shell script or a batch file. In other words, we'll explore the use of string args in the main method. Here, args stands for arguments. The box bracket at the end of the argument denotes an array, and the string at the beginning indicates that the type is string. Therefore, string args box bracket denotes that command line arguments are passed as a string array. Now let us understand this with the help of an actual program. The best way to understand is to display this string array and see what is stored inside this array. So let us first print the size of the array, that is, we'll say length colon, and then we'll display the length of the array, that is args dot length. That is one thing. And then what we'll do is we'll also display the individual elements of the array. For displaying the individual elements of an array, we'll require a loop. The loop will run from 0 till the length, that is I is less than args dot length. And then we'll increment the value of I once it's done. Inside the loop, we'll say system.out.println args box bracket, and then the value of I. We'll close the box bracket, we'll have an equal to sign, and then we'll display the actual content, that is args of I. And this will display the array with the index positions. Now I'll format the code and save the code. Now the name of the file is demo.java. So we'll compile the file by saying javac demo.java. And once it is compiled, I'll execute it by saying java demo. Now if I press enter, see what happens. It says length is 0. The reason for this length being 0 is that we haven't passed anything on the command line while executing the code. So if I again run the code and this time I say 1, 2, 3, please note 1, 2, 3 is a string. So if I press enter, now as you can see, the length of the array is 3. The 0th location stores 1. The first location stores 2. And the second location stores 3. Also note that if I enclosed the argument in double quotes and I separate it, like for example 1, 2, 3, and I say 4. This time what happens is that 3 and 4 is stored inside the second argument. Why? Because I have enclosed this in double quotes. Another point to note over here is that the arguments are always passed to main method as a string, even if the actual argument is of any other type. For example, if I run this once more and I pass 1, 2, 3, 4, even then the number 1, 2, 3, 4 is converted and stored as a string in the third location. This implies that if you want to use the integer passed as a string like a regular integer, you'll have to convert it via integer.parseInt. Similarly, if you want to convert the argument into float, you'll have to use integer.parseFloat and so on. Now, let us understand this better with the help of an example which is less toyish in nature. On your screen is a program to generate multiplication table of a number. Now, this is a very straightforward program. We are declaring an integer variable number. Then we are prompting the user to enter an integer. Then we are storing the number entered by the user into the variable number. That is followed by a loop which is running from 1 to 10. And from within the loop, we are displaying the multiplication table of the entered number. The program right now is not using command line argument in any manner. Let me run this program for you first. So we'll compile the program by saying javac table.java. Once the program is compiled, we'll execute it by saying java table. Computer will prompt us to enter an integer. Let's say I enter 5, and the multiplication table of the number 5 is displayed. Now we'll modify this program using command line arguments so that the program does not ask for input if a number is provided at the command line. Let's proceed with the objective. We will detect the presence of a command line argument by checking the length of the array args. If the length of the array is 0, we'll proceed normally. If the length is more than 0, we'll assume that the first argument is our number. Let's implement this idea. The first thing we need to do is to detect the presence of a command line argument, and for that we'll write if args.length equals 0. That means if there are no command line arguments, then we want this block, that is these two lines, to be executed. Else we'll simply assume that the first argument is our number, and since the command line arguments are always string, in this case we need to convert it using integer.parseInt. So we'll take the first argument and convert it to integer. Let us save this code and then compile and run it. So we'll say java c table.java. The code is compiled. Now we'll run it first without the command line argument to confirm that whether it is still working. Okay, it is still working. And now we'll run the code again, but this time we'll pass the number on the command line itself. So there we are now getting the table of the number 6, which was passed via the command line argument. In case you are running the program from BlueJ, there is still an option to provide the command line argument. Notice, if I right click over here and run the program, we usually press OK over here. If you want, you can give the command line argument over here as a string. So now if I say OK, I'll get the same output. So that's all for this tutorial on how to use command line arguments in Java. I hope you found this helpful. See you in the next video. Till then, happy coding. Your feedback is valuable to me. I want to make sure that my videos are clear and helpful. You can follow me on the internet on any one or all of these channels.